My daughter loves Murgh Makhani, which is butter chicken, because the sauce, it's tomato and cream. It's fragrant, but not spicy. And I love it because it comes together in a snap, so it's perfect for a midweek dinner. Now, we always serve it over basmati rice, which I have cooking back there in the rice cooker. And you gotta start that first because the rice takes longer than the dish itself. All right, now we're gonna focus on the sauce first because it's all about the sauce. First up, a nice big onion that we're just gonna chop. I cut the tip off first, and then I cut it in half through that root end, and this is when I peel it. I think it's easier to peel after you've cut it in half. To cut an onion the easy way, you're gonna cut it into quarters, again, through that root end so the layers stay together. And cutting towards but not through the root, we're gonna cut down, and then we're gonna tip it on its other side and do the same thing. And then you can simply slice down into a nice fine chop. All right, with that onion out of the way, it's time to focus on the ginger. You wanna use fresh ginger here, about 4 teaspoons. And I have to say that prepping ginger is my least favorite kitchen task. But something that I found that makes it a bit easier is peeling with a spoon, because the peels are really thin and you can just scrape it off. Quick way to grate ginger is just using a rasp style grater. And it's really easy once it's peeled. All right, so that's about 4 teaspoons. I'm gonna put that right in the same bowl with the onions. Next up, a serrano pepper, and this adds a little bit of spice and heat. Of course, I always take out the seeds and ribs because those are the spiciest parts of the chili. But its fresh, grassy flavor is really important in the sauce. And now I'm just gonna mince up this serrano. All right, into the bowl it goes. Last but not least, some garlic, and a good amount of garlic. This is 5 nice-sized cloves. So I'm just gonna trim the garlic, take the skins off by banging it against the side of my knife. And then I love using a garlic press. It just makes this whole process so easy. And for this, having a perfect mince just isn't important. So that is it for the vegetable prep for the sauce. Now I'm gonna focus just on the few spices that really give the sauce its flavor. We're only gonna use 3 spices. Now the first is garam masala, a tablespoon. And garam masala is a blend of spices. Different brands taste differently, and of course there's lots of variations, but anything you find at the supermarket will taste good here. If you want to make your own garam masala, you can find a recipe for that on our website. Next up, a teaspoon of ground coriander, half a teaspoon of ground cumin. Last but not least, we're gonna add half a teaspoon of ground black pepper. Veg prep is done, the spices are measured out, it's time to go to the stove. All right, so we're gonna build this sauce in a simple saucepan, and I've already got 2 tablespoons of butter melting in here. I'm gonna add those vegetables. Takes only 8 to 10 minutes. You want them to soften. The onions are gonna get a little brown, but that is crucial for flavor, that you sweat those vegetables and they release their flavor into the pot before you add the liquid. It's been about 10 minutes, and you can see that the onions have really softened and it started to brown around the edges, and that is perfect. Time to add those spices. I'm gonna add them all at once. And again, we're cooking over medium heat. I'm gonna let these spices cook for about 3 minutes. We really wanna work their flavor into the vegetables and into the pot before we add the liquid. It's been a couple of minutes, and you can really smell those spices. They don't smell as raw, they're a bit more muted. And that's what we're looking for. Now we're gonna add the liquid, and the liquid is just water, 1.5 cups of water, and the tomato paste, 1/2 cup, which is more than one of those little cans. So stock up on your tomato paste if you like this dish. We're just gonna whisk this in, and while I'm whisking, I'm feeling for any of those brown bits or that fond that formed around the edge of the pan. Wanna make sure you scrape that into the sauce because that's good flavor. All right, so there are no lumps of tomato paste in there. Now we're gonna add a little sugar. This is a tablespoon of sugar and a teaspoon of table salt. Return this to a simmer, and that happens pretty quickly. There we go. Now I'm gonna turn the heat off, and I'm gonna add a cup of cream. So now I'm gonna use an immersion blender and put it in the pot to make the sauce as smooth as possible. If you didn't have one of these, of course you could transfer this to a blender and do the same thing. But it can make a mess if you don't know what you're doing. The one tip is to make sure these holes are always submerged, because if those holes are visible, sauce is gonna spit out all over the place. All right, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna put this back on the heat, return it to a simmer, and then we're gonna whisk in just 2 more tablespoons of butter just for a little finish. And again, This dish is known as butter chicken for a reason. Okay, so the sauce is done. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the lid on to help keep it warm. Now I'm gonna turn the heat off. Next step, the chicken. With this sauce done, it's time to focus on the chicken. And here I have 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Don't substitute chicken breasts here. The thighs have much more flavor and they stay tender as they sit in that sauce. Even my daughter, who doesn't really like chicken thighs, likes them in this dish, so no one's gonna complain. You wanna trim these. Sometimes there's a lot to trim, some fat and gristle. Sometimes there's nothing, and these were pretty clean. And we're just gonna season them with a teaspoon of table salt. Toss them around. And now, traditionally, the chicken is marinated in yogurt, which is delicious. But the yogurt actually does too good a job of marinating, and it'll make this chicken a little on the mushy side. So all we're gonna do is toss it with the yogurt, then cook it straight away. You just need half a cup of nice, thick Greek yogurt. The yogurt also will help the chicken brown in the oven, and that browning is pretty crucial for the flavor. So you just wanna toss the chicken around, make sure it's nice and evenly coated with the yogurt before you start cooking. When it comes to cooking the chicken, we're gonna use the broiler because it's as close as we can get to a tandoor oven. So the chicken gets a great char, which is awesome flavor. But in our kitchen, we're just gonna use the broiler. Just make sure the rack underneath the broiler is about 6 inches from the broiler element. That way, you get a good amount of browning. All right, I'm gonna place this chicken on a wire rack set over a rimmed baking sheet lined with foil, and that is for easy cleanup because the foil will look like a mess. These are ready for the broiler. It's gonna take anywhere from 16 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna flip them over halfway through so we get browning on both sides. And we're looking for a final temperature of 175 degrees. Oh, these look good. I know they might look a little burned if you've never made this before, but that is the level of char you're looking for. That is good flavor. So I'm just gonna flip these over and cook them on the second side. Back into the oven, another 10 minutes or so until they register 175 degrees. Ooh, it smells good. Now, I often find that the second side doesn't get as brown as the first side, but that's okay. It's still gonna taste great. So again, we're looking for a temperature of 175 degrees. We're good. I'm gonna set these aside, let that chicken rest for 5 minutes before we cut it up. And in the meantime, I'm gonna reheat the sauce over medium heat before serving. The chicken has rested and it's time to cut it up into bite-sized pieces. In general, you wanna go for 3/4 inch pieces or so. Basically, you want them to fit on a fork. All right, so into the sauce, all this chicken will go. Oh, yep. Last but not least, I'm gonna chop up a little cilantro and stir it in. I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of cilantro in here. Maybe a little extra for good luck. Oh, goodness. Here's that basmati rice, which is great because it soaks up all the sauce. Ah, the moment I've been waiting for. Oh, that's good with that little extra kick of heat. If you want to make Murgh Makhani, remember 2 things. First, you want to coat the chicken with yogurt, not marinate it. And second, you want to throw that chicken under the broiler to cook so it's nice and blackened. From America's Test Kitchen at Home, a house favorite recipe for Murgh Makhani. Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.